shake things up and fan the flame. Let's fan the flame. Fan the flame. If you're sick of the status quo, give it.
Great job. Ted Nugent, where's Ted Nugent? Where's Ted? Huh? Look at you. You doing well? You are a handsome devil. Thank you. Great job, Ted. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
And now, it's time for Ted Nugent's Spirit Campfire with John Brenkus. It's the physics of spirituality with attitude.
Dude, I didn't invent attitude, but I did perfect it by the age of 6. And this is not just the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire with John Brenkus, the physics of spirituality with attitude, but this is the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire with John Brenkus, the physics of spirituality with attitude, brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Don't forget that. These are the shit kickers. I'm proud to stand with Patriot Mobile. Greetings, John, Courtney.
Greetings. Do you want me to do a Patriot Mobile read up top or a little bit later? What do you want me to do?
Go nuts. How are you, John?
I am, you know what? Look, I am so amazing. I'm amazing. There are a lot of people, a lot of pissed off people, a lot of people walking around with their heads down, shaking their heads and everything. While I am like that when I'm sort of looking at the news, which I don't recommend you look at it often, but I do look at it and I go, I shake my head, but then I pick my head up and I smile. That's how I am.
John, I think it may have shocked you, but do I or do I not impart, share, project, and deliver some reasonable wisdom on the Spirit Campfire? I mean, I give some pretty good advice on managing one's American dream and gift of life from God with positive spirit and attitude. For an old greasy guitar player, I deliver the goods, don't I?
You do. You do deliver the goods. And I will say, you know, it's interesting when you when we keep sort of spreading the word about the Spirit Campfire and everyone's like, Ted Nugent, like what is Ted Nugent say and think? And I tell people to tune in, and afterwards they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that Ted Nugent was so cogent and wise and clever. I'm like, what did you think?
And
like,
tuned in and borderline knowledgeable. But here's
yeah, like borderline educated.
Borderline tuned in to the planet. But here I will share with you, because you did touch on that as we introduce this wonderful alignment of the deer hunting planets in North America. Everyone is having a wonderful hunting season. John, my bass player, Greg Smith, killed his first deer ever on opening day with me yesterday. He shot a beautiful 6-point Michigan whitetail with a perfect shot with his Randy Sporting Goods, Randy Brown 450 Bushmaster bolt action sniper rifle. And here's the clincher. I hope I have a photo of this. Jason Hartless, who last year I baptized into the spirit world of self-sufficiency and protein procurement by the hands of God and independent salvation of taking advantage of the natural season of harvest. John, Jason Hartless, my funk brother, animal grinding drummer, shot a buck of a lifetime. Maybe 1% of deer hunters in the world get to shoot a buck like Jason shot last night, and he made a real improvise, adapt, overcome, you know, because he's not an experienced hunter, but he tunes in real quickly. Like when he started playing my music, he played my music like he played it all his life. When he played for Mitch Ryder, he played for Mitch Ryder like he'd done it all his life. He's a really tuned in spirit warrior. And he had to get through the back of the blind because the buck went around him behind an old cut bean field right here in Jackson County. He was able to get into the window of the blind as the buck was hauling ass, stopped the buck, dropped it in his tracks. I'll see if I can show you a photo.
Dude, you're teasing me. You're teasing me for when I make my hunting debut.
And I'll tell you, you will be, I don't know if you can, this is a buck of a lifetime. Can you
Send
see
it to
that?
me. Oh, wow.
I mean, just
now, do you guys get to eat it that night, right there and then?
He got it just at dusk, about a half hour of legal shooting light left, which also made it difficult because he wasn't able to ascertain the hornage, the antler dimensions with the naked eye. But when he brought the scope up on the 450 Bushmaster, it was like, and as he expressed it, I always use out of body, samurai. It has your total dedication to any endeavor should have a life unto itself. Jason,
right.
His eyes were bugging out of his head. Greg's eyes were bugging out of his head. Now, as awesome as those kills were, they really made it happen. Just like Natty Bumppo meets Jeremiah Johnson and David Crockett and Daniel Boone. I did take my beautiful daughter Sasha out opening morning, opening afternoon, and again this morning, and we did get skunked. Now, she passed on a couple of smaller bucks. In the old days, this would be a trophy of a lifetime. But last year, she got a real mature buck. So
right.
I think she's getting spoiled. So bottom line is, as wonderful as this time of year is, and as painfully as it is tainted by the corruption, the runaway fraud in this election, we'll get into it in a minute, where hundreds of thousands of dead people voted, hundreds of thousands of vote counters, we can now prove that they tilted it towards Biden. Just the machines, just the computers were programmed to tilt it. We got so many examples. But my daughter Sasha we have a very loving time in the deer blind. It's very intimate. You have to be quiet, but we are able to have a little conversation. My grandson Caden was with us, so it's just as physics of spirituality as a father could ever want, father and grandfather. But as she wrapped it up today, and she was a bit melancholy and heartbroken because she wanted to stay and hunt all week, but she has to get back to Connecticut, and she has to get the kids in school, and she's facing all this bullshit about the kids have got to get tested before they go back to school because they traveled and they can't do the quick test. They got to do the prolonged test. So he's going to miss his exams. She's all heartbroken, and she called me. And so I would like to share the fatherly, lifetime, paying attention, tuned in, compassionate knowledge, and dare I say, wisdom that I gave to my beautiful daughter, Sasha. I'm sharing with my children and my grandkids and my band and my friends, and now I'll share it with everybody on Spirit Campfire. You can really get depressed right now when you see the total abject, ugly wave of socialism, communism, Marxism coming, where the enemies of America, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they are declared Marxists. So that makes us very scared, very concerned. Well, let me tell everybody what I tell myself and what I told my beautiful daughter, Sasha, and I share with everyone else. Now more than ever, this always works, but now more than ever, this is a survival maneuver. We must compartmentalize. You must be happy with your family. You can discuss the pain in the ass politics to a degree, but you better keep it upbeat more than fearful. We all got together at Sasha's house, the grandkids running around playing and having the time of their life. All the dogs, all my dogs and Sasha's Maggie, they're having the time. We're eating wonderful food. And there were times where we had to go, okay, enough politics. Let's talk about Thanksgiving dinner. Let's talk about how good we shot when we sighted our rifles in, how much fun it was, and that when we're focusing on aim small, miss small, marksmanship and gun safety, that it takes you away. And I think, John, what we've accomplished more than anything, obviously we're having fun. Obviously we share a lot of our, not just opinions and presumptions, but our knowledge. A lot of things you don't have to have opinions about. It can be shared knowledge. I think now more than ever, people need to compartmentalize, take care of the serious issues in their life, because now they're shutting down New York, they're shutting down California, they're shutting down Michigan. We have the crisis of fraudulent voting. There's a lot of heartbreak out there. But I, your Motor City Madman guitar whapper, I'm a happy son of a bitch because I tackle the beast to the best of my ability, and then I have fun. So I think our Spirit Campfire has always represented a sanctuary from the ugliness and the deceit, the hate, the violence. Did you see the violence? People just wanted to get together and support President Trump, and here comes the Joe Biden supporters beating people up and attacking and cold cocking them, knocking them out in the street. Number one, compartmentalize and keep it as positive as possible. Don't abandon your responsibility to fight the ugly, but focus on the good more than the bad and the ugly. And here's another tip. If you're going to have a peaceful protest against a fraudulent election, the fake news, the deceit, the lying from so many sources, if you're going to go there, you know that the Marxists, the Black Lives Matter terrorists, and Antifa, you know they're going to show up. Watch your six. Keep your head on a swivel. The only thing missing right now, John, is a couple of busted skulls on the other side. If they attack you, you must defend yourself. And it doesn't always mean running away, because I see some of the Trump supporters running away and they get knocked down and beat up anyway. You're going to get knocked down and beat up. Neutralize the threat. Stop these sons of bitches before they hurt you. That's Ted Nugent's advice right here and now.
That's Ted Nugent's advice, and it does not reflect the opinions of everybody in the world. It is Ted Nugent's
you can
advice.
run and
With
get
that
hurt.
being said, he's got some sage
Run away
advice.
and get hurt if you'd like.
What's that?
I'm not going to run away and get hurt. I can promise you that.
That's right. So listen, I want to, a topic that is surprisingly up for debate here is it possible that President Trump somehow prevails because I believe it's December 14th, I believe,
Yeah,
when
the day after my birthday.
the electors are chosen by every state on the 14th, and if an election is being legally contested and the states are not able to appoint them as proper protocol, it goes to the state legislatures, who then end up picking somebody, and essentially it goes to the House of Representatives. And in the House of Representatives, then it's only one vote per state. And the Republicans have 24, I believe, 24 states where they have the governor and the state legislature. And the Democrats only have 17, and the rest are split. And it seems like there is a path forward. The question is, do we think it's possible that it even comes to that?
I'm a positive, hopeful, optimistic son of a bitch. And let me read it this way in an official decree. Immediate call to action. In the state of Michigan, I'm a Texas resident, but I am in Michigan right now, and my roots are here, and all my friends are here. Not all of them, but a lot of my Michiganiac buddies are here. Our Michigan Secretary of State is about to certify our votes in just a couple of days, by the 17th. That's tomorrow. Once the votes are certified, they cannot be audited for fraud. 47 additional counties in Michigan use the same software that caused a huge glitch in Antrim County that switched 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden in that county. There are 47 additional counties that use that same technology. If we don't demand an audit here in Michigan as concerned citizens, the potentially fraudulent votes are locked into the totals with no recourse to verify them. Under Michigan law, concerned citizens have the right, I believe duty, to request, I believe demand, a results-oriented audit to ensure the accuracy and integrity of the election. A recount only recounts the certified votes. This is from my buddy Mark Farner, by the way, our wonderful guest from
Sure.
That we had just last month. Mark Farner said, I urge you to please call House Speaker Lee Chatfield or email him, leechatfield@house.mi.gov. Lee Chatfield is our Speaker of the House. and contact Majority Leader Mike Shirkey. These are two friends of mine. I will be doing so. Be sure to include your full name, address, and phone number. Let them know that you're requesting a results-oriented audit of our election before it's certified. Time is of essence, like tonight. Our fate is about to be sealed. Please take action. But this is the furtherance of what I've always said, that if we the people don't demand accountability from our elected employees, the predilection of mankind is to trample the weak and hurdle the dead and ignore we the people and do as they damn well please. We can turn this around.
Yeah, you want to know what's really interesting? This is what's interesting to me. And I'm, sitting around the campfire, I literally, when I tell you, I've never told a lie. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you, Ted. I'm not going to lie to my wife. I'm not going to tell you a lie. Here's the truth. In 2016, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump because I didn't want to lie to people. So I was like, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. With all that being said, when he won, the first thing that pops in my mind was, is there something like fishy about this? Like, this seems odd that he did win, and that's fine. I'm like, well, let's see. Did he just outfox them? Did he outwork them? What was the deal? And when people were screaming, jumping up and down, saying, wow, he must have cheated. He got help from Russia. I, as a person who did not vote for him, am like, what are the odds that any candidate is a puppet of Russia and they end up winning? I'm like, there's just no, I would believe, like, oh, he paid off some people here or there. Like, that sounds like he's a billionaire, maybe something happened, but the accusation was crazy. Now, this is my point. The point now is, so now it's 2020. So some guy that by all accounts, and I'm not a politically motivated person. This is not liberal versus liberal versus conservative. I'm saying Joe Biden, there is the chances of him accumulating more votes than Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, two candidates that were like blazing a trail. The fact that he got more votes, the fact that here in Georgia, the Joe Biden got hundreds of thousands of more votes than the Democratic senators that were running. I'm like, who was like Biden and no, the Republican senators? It just said, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't smell right. I'm not saying it can't be real, but I as a citizen in this country would want, if I'm the other side, I would be insisting, yeah, the math might look weird to you, but let's sit down and do a recount so everybody has peace.
Yeah, in other words, you're calling for confirmation and documentation.
Why not?
Everyone's vote is legitimate. All we're asking for is to make sure
I don't know why not.
Can be documented as legitimate. Yes.
You're a radical, John.
Yeah, well, Ted, yeah, I'm a crazy radical. Herbert, this is what's interesting. The echo chamber that everybody keeps talking about. I don't know if you saw this clip, but there's a clip from Sinclair that's a compilation of Sinclair media-owned news organizations all reciting the same talking point. And it was literally like hey, we released a memo where everybody's going to say the exact same thing, on a local level. And then they stitched it together. Herbert, play this clip because I think this is unbelievable.
But first, does it matter who owns your local TV? While polls show Americans are increasingly worried about so-called fake news, they also show that many trust their local news more than other sources. The largest owner of local stations in the country is Sinclair Broadcasting. A viral video of Sinclair news anchors has again raised concerns about the way in which the company mixes news with partisan political opinion. William Brangham updates his story about the broadcast giant that originally ran last year.
A train derailment in Tennessee.
Some routine road maintenance has led to a squabble.
We have some breaking news to tell you about. This is out of Bethesda tonight.
Night after night, the country's largest owner of local TV stations, the Sinclair Broadcast Group, reaches over a third of homes across the nation.
Compromise plan for the controversial Canisius Inn.
Most of us think of local news as just that, local. Stations run local stories produced and reported by local people. But if recently you tuned in to, say, WVTV, which is Sinclair's station in Milwaukee, you saw this.
Does the president have to repeat that fact day in and day out for us to believe it?
That's Boris Epstein, former member of the Trump administration and now chief political analyst for Sinclair. And here he was again on WEAR in Pensacola.
The president stating the fact that the fringes of the left and the right
and on KSAS in Wichita
are both capable of hate and violence does not mean he's condoning any of it.
And again on every Sinclair owns such a large chunk of the marketplace already, but it's hoping to get bigger still. If a proposed $4 billion merger with Tribune Media goes forward, Sinclair would now reach 3 out of 4 American households. Journalism professor Louis Friedland.
It is a real step in a...
Talking about where literally they say the exact same thing. The point is that the local news is kind of your trusted, Ron Burgundy, stay classy kind of news, but everyone's getting talking points from a national level, so there is no local news. And if anything, I am like skeptical. Anytime I hear anything, I'm very skeptical. And on something like an election, to me, that's obviously a very important election. If I were Democrats right now, I would be insisting. I would be right there with the Republicans saying, we've got to sort this out, because if we don't, there are going to be 73 million pissed off people. So let's settle it, and it's going to be fine. We can take our time. Where does everybody have to be? We're all in lockdown anyway.
Skeptical and suspicious is an American duty. I think the founding fathers wanted us to ask questions constantly. That's why I've always been considered a radical, because when somebody just parrots the same thing over and over again, here, take some of these pills, will make you feel good, except that you're drooling, puking, stumbling, and dying, I don't think I'm going to feel good, because I don't want to drool and puke and stumble and die. So I've been real suspicious my whole life, and I'd like to think that all politics should be local, but it's about the citizens of that region communicating, expressing their concerns, and demanding accountability regarding those priority concerns from their elected employees. Now, because the Spirit Campfire has always been a sanctuary, we touched on some very important political and societal concerns right now. But considering local, I couldn't be more proud and inflamed and raucous and hell-raising to be from the epicenter of the greatest music in the history of the world, and that's Detroit, which happens to represent Michigan. And when I was throwing flames out of my butts with the Amboy Dukes back in the 60s and 70s, I got to know some of the greatest musicians and some of the greatest musical creators and adventurers in the world. And I'm continuing this unbelievable roster of guests that we've had on Spirit Campfire for month after month right now by introducing my buddy, one of the most underrated bands, one of the most underrated musical forces in the history of all Michiganiac Motor City rock and roll. This is Michael Lutz, my sonic bombast funk brother, blood brother, from Brownsville Station, who not only wrote Smoking in the Boys' Room, but he got caught smoking in the boys' room. Michael Lutz, welcome to the Campfire.
And I'm proud and happy to be here, buddy. Good to see you, man. Good to see all you guys are safe and sound in these ultra weird times, man.
Yeah, wow. Michael, I want you to meet my buddy John Brenkus. He's a music lover just like we are.
Hey,
John.
How are you doing? Wait, I want to jump in first, Ted, because Smoking in the Boys' Room is such an iconic song, right? It's like, what I want to know is, what was the inspiration for it? Did you write it while smoking in the boys' room?
Well, truth be told, yes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. What can you say, man? What can you say? The song speaks for itself, right?
Michael, I think what you guys represented, one of the greatest compliments a musical force can be given is that to be a garage band, because that spontaneity and that youthful, outrageous uninhibitedness, nothing is sacred, and if it is, we're going to break it. Yeah. That really represented the Amboy Dukes and the MC5, and it probably represented the Beatles and Liverpool and the Stones as they regurgitated the Black American influences that Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, those were garage, noise-making, outrageous, adventurous, Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea of outrageous musical ideas. Brownsville Station really embodied that. And I think as an extended answer to John's question about smoking in the boys' room, if any song represented a big middle finger to authority, it was probably Smoking in the Boys' Room, which, by the way, what's the goofy band in Los Angeles that made it a big hit?
Motley Crue?
Yeah, Motley Crue. Yeah, that big band.
That goofy band?
Guys. They saw that because their goal was to be a garage band, I think, and so they covered Smoking in the Boys' Room. But tell us about Michael Lutz in those teenage years, because I was there. I know what my story is, and it's probably paralleled. We've known each other all these years, back with Cub Coda and Motown Tony and the crazy-ass Henry fire-breathing drummer. Tell us about the origin of Brownsville Station, because those were the jump-off years of the best rock and roll in the history of the world.
Sure, man. Sure. The big premise, believe it or not, was we wanted to, both myself and Cub, we first got together, and we were always into putting on a show. And that was part of the deal of 60s rock that came out. I mean, it was not just someone standing up there playing. It was somebody swinging across the stage in a loincloth, no pun intended, all that shit. So we wanted to form a band around. We wanted a drummer that was, big and showy and doing all of this. And we wanted a bass player that felt the same way. And we managed to find, Tony, original black bass player from Brownsville. He came out of Jackson, Michigan. And then Henry came out of Lima, Ohio, man, believe it or not. And that was the premise. And, the whole idea was to put on a show, right? And
so
play
Little
the Marshall's
Richard,
dime,
Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, because, again, they played killer. It was always about the music. But you don't get up and set your piano on fire and dance on the keys and kick over the stool and go berserk and scream with the sweat flying. It's as organic as can be, but they knew they had to leave a mark. And I got to tell you, John, if you could have seen Michael and Cub Coda and Henry and Tony, these guys, not only did the audiences love them, they scared the shit out of people. It was absolutely fire-breathing outrageous.
That was part of the deal, right?
Yeah, shit. Tony used to wear these. He was so outrageous, he starts swinging his bass around and everything, and people in the audience would be ducking and stuff. And then he'd jump out into the audience. I remember this. What was there was a club in Cleveland, Ohio. It was part of the Agora.
Shindig. There was a shindig in Cleveland.
Yeah, and the part of the Agora ballroom thing.
Agora, yep.
So Tony jumps out into the audience, man. He's got this all white, satin thing on and everything like that. And about a minute later, his bass playing stops and he comes scraping up on stage, and all the women in the audience had ripped all his clothes off, man. And he's standing up there putting his bass back on. Didn't even cover up his slong, shit. He finished the set, man.
So, Michael, here we are 100 years later. Michael has a great ear. Already Smoking in the Boys' Room is a smart-ass song. It's a historical landmark, a rite of passage of many young people. And they did put on a show. The more outrageous, the better. But, Michael, you've always been music. You have this incredible ear. Michael's produced a bunch of my records. We've co-written songs together. We've toured together. We've thrown ideas back and forth. And in fact, when we're together, as you've noticed, Michael, when I pick up the guitar, these riffs happen, and Michael's the first guy to go, that should be a song. What's that riff? And we literally have constructed songs from me just tuning up and making noise. So you wanted to be outrageous, but where did that love and that samurai music pulse that you possess? Because not many people have that, and I've been surrounded by people that do have that. We had Mitch Ryder on the show. We had Billy Gibbons on the show. We had Mark Farner. We had Ricky Medlock. We had the damn Yankees on. We had Jason and Greg. I've been surrounded by musical maniacs all my life, and you're one of the musical maniacs of maniacs. Where were you born, and where did you get your first sucker punch? By what music?
Well, I always felt musical. The first instrument I picked up in 4th grade, I started playing the clarinet. And right away, I sat first chair, and you progress on through and everything. And when the Beatles hit, I had a real ally in terms of, when I started teaching myself guitar and bass and all that stuff. But my real ally was my mom. My mom was British. She came from England. And we used to sit around our shortwave radio and pick up all of the music that was coming out of Great Britain. And just from the standpoint of if there was a warring faction going on between mom and dad, mom was on my side and my dad was a business guy and just didn't think that music was viable. But that just made me more determined, all right? And then, from there, and just, Ted, we've talked about this before. We were surrounded by, not only in Detroit, but, the whole Motown thing. If you talk about absorbing music, you couldn't deny listening to Motown. You couldn't deny listening to all the stuff that was coming out of California, the Wrecking Crew. Those guys are, the Funk Brothers from Motown. The Memphis thing with Steve Cropper and Booker T and
Duck Dunn.
God, every time, and back in those days, we got to mention that AM radio was the thing, and we have one of the biggest stations in the United States. CKLW was just over the border in Canada, and they played everything. You'd hear the Beach Boys, you'd hear Motown, you'd hear Sam and Dave, you'd hear Beach Boys. It was just it all filtered down, right? You went through the same thing.
It's funny,
I'm
John.
curious,
Go ahead, John.
now, there's so much talk about, the sort of the Motor City music scene and like why it was so robust. And obviously we can keep going down the list of, brilliant musicians. I have a serious question. Do you think the fact that the winters are so brutal plays into great musicians? Because you're going to sit inside and play your guitar because it's dark and crappy outside, so you might as well do something to keep yourself busy.
Michael, you go ahead and answer that.
I used to go ice fishing, and I'd bring my guitar along. How's that?
In your shorts.
Don't ruin my theory.
John, let me answer that, because a lot of people, and I want to make this perfectly clear, and we're still trying to get my buddy Wayne Kramer from the MC5 to join us on here, but we did have Mitch Ryder, who was before the MC5. He was literally still hanging onto the baton from Little Richard and Mitch Ryder at the same time. Little Richard didn't even pass the baton on. Mitch was holding it while Little Richard was still holding it. There was a seamless non-transition. It was one giant musical belch. But everybody has always gone, well, the Detroit bands are really hardcore because it's industrial and they're on the assembly line. And you got this hard steel and they're building cars and you got this work ethic. None of the musicians were on the assembly line. Nobody worked. Nobody went 9 to 5. We started playing guitar right in the very beginning. So I could give you examples why Brownsville Station was such a fireball, why the SRC and Dick Wagner and the Frost and the Rationals and Grand Funk Railroad, and it goes on today with Kid Rock, and Michael and I are still doing it. But there was something about, and I said this when we had Mitch Ryder on, something about the fire that Mitch Ryder showed us. We saw it from Mitch Ryder maybe before we saw it from Little Richard, or maybe didn't get to go see Chuck Berry or some of the hottest bands of the 50s. But once Mitch Ryder went through 6 tambourines per song, and Johnny Bonangic had a bass drum that nobody had ever witnessed in their life at the age of 15, I have always said that they established such a pummeling groove, tightness, and everything was everything was like hyperdrive.
Thunderfoot.
The MC5 and the Brownsville Station and the Amboy Dukes and Dick Wagner and Grand Funk Railroad. I think we were all tainted, and we went, my God, That's the most, we didn't even know the term high energy, but Brownsville Station, you focused on that. And let's talk about Cub Coda, because he was derivative right from BB and Albert and Freddie King. Cub Coda was this cute little bispectacled little runt of a guy who thought he was the biggest black man in the history of music. Tell us about your experiences with Cub Coda. What a genius, huh?
Yeah, boy, I truly loved the way, what I was hooked on with him was how he phrased a solo, right? It wasn't full tilt and flash. When you think about Smoking in the Boys Room, you can sing it. I mean, that was Cub. A genius on guitar player. And, we wrote a lot of good songs together, man. That was the other thing. And, I wanted to say something about when you were talking about Mitch Ryder and everything like that. I was, at the time, when I first saw Mitch Ryder, it was at the Northland Mump. Remember that?
The Amboy Dukes were the house band at the Northland Mump in '67.
Northland Mump. I saw them at the Northland Mump, and I went the next day after seeing Johnny B, man, I went and fired my drummer because I knew it wasn't going to be good enough, That's because the other thing is, once that whole thing started to go, it was all one-upsmanship. You better put on a show, and, it's not like, hey, don't bother me. I'm trying to do a show. Trying to do a show. You got to be doing a show, and you got to be playing rock and roll that won't quit, man.
Yeah, I would call it the forehead vein quota. If you don't see the veins on the lead singer's forehead, at least 4 crescendos per song, which was what Mitch Ryder taught us. Yep. And that's where this energy came from, John. I don't think it had anything to do with the winters, because we played all the time. We played summer, spring, fall, winter. Nothing could stop us. We were more efficient than the U.S. mail service. Nothing would stop us from getting to a gig if we had a snowshoe into Montreal February 15th.
Hello.
But, Michael, talk about that. John, you can't. I've told you how the Amboy Dukes did over 300 concerts a year with Dave and Diversified Management. Tell us about Brownsville Station. You guys lived in a station wagon in a van, didn't you?
Man, 1974, Smoking hit the top of the charts beginning of February. We played 327 one-nighters that year and did the follow-up album. So that was another 10 days in New York doing that. So
wow.
John, I've probably been the only guy in the media that has humped relentlessly the unheralded and non-appreciated or glorified work ethic. Michael Lutz.
Right.
By the way, John, you worked with athletes all your life. Michael Lutz is a Boston marathoner. This guy can outrun the deer I killed last night.
You're a baller. Like, I think you were is it true that you were the first rock and roller to qualify for the Boston Marathon? I mean, it was a big deal to do that.
Yeah, because back then, this was in 77, and you had to run under 3 hours to qualify. No matter what.
You had to run under 3 hours?
3 hours, yeah.
Oh, my God. That's insanity.
So I run, back when I was doing a lot of mileage and everything, I'd run 2:34.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Ted, that's moving.
Yep. Well, Michael, you're still running today. I mean, you're still making music. You're still writing. You're still recording. You're still performing. And you're still marathoning. And aren't you my age? Aren't you 71?
You're the older. I turned 71 in June.
All right. So I'll be 72 next month. So he's always respected his elders. Yes.
That's
right. So, Michael, you're running so much. And if you're running a lot of distance, do you find that you think clearer while you're running, or does it clear your head?
Hey, dude, I write most of my music when I'm out running.
Yep.
I'll start
because it's rhythmic.
Headset on guitar and something, and then I'll come up with a melody, and I guarantee you 99 and 44/100% of the lyrics that I apply to my songs come from when I'm running. Absolutely.
And Ted, the reason why is there's that rhythm, right? Because your heart's beating, your feet are stomping, you're breathing, you've got a cadence, and you can just think clear. I mean, I definitely do my best thinking. I swim, so I do my best thinking while I'm swimming. Running is, it's almost like it would be a shorter list of the songs that were written while not running.
For me, that's the truth. That's the
right.
truth.
You know, Michael, do you agree?
I'm in my 45th year.
Wow.
Don't you agree? I've used this term throughout the Campfire, and I do media every day, and I always reference the dedication to any serious endeavor that you want to maximize your fulfillment in pursuit thereof. The word samurai, when you're running, you have to be out of body, don't you? You have to perform beyond what the normal 6 foot, 160 pound, you have to go beyond your daily physical capability. And that's samurai, that's out of body, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I think what you're alluding to is, I mean, the days that are best for me are when I've got music in my head and I'm just cruising, right? And in fact, people will honk at me and I don't even notice them, right? But the other side of the coin is when, you know, you're having a bad day or whatever, man, you know, it's the hardest step is the first one out the door, right? You know, I mean, but for me running, it's not only saved me because I have from my dad, I have a family history of congenital heart disease and everything. And I go for physical every year and I'm perfect. So it's survival, right? And also from a music standpoint, God bless it, man, for me, you know.
Jeez. Amazing.
Isn't it true?
I love Michael.
Go ahead, John.
I had a question about, you know, in terms of innovation, you talked about you had to put on a show. You know, something like Smoking in the Boys' Room, you know, in terms musically, there have been a lot of songs that have been written with, you know, GDA and playing it, but it's the way you play it and the way that you perform it. That showmanship, is that trial and error? Is that premeditated? Is it spontaneous? What is it that makes a great showman?
I think there's a tendency to want to do it first, you know, but like with a lot of things, man, some of it's just trial and error, you know, like if Cub and I would do a move on stage and we'd go back to the dressing room after the show, hey, that was pretty cool. So now you incorporate that, right? And then, you know, a few other things and but you have to want to put on a show. This isn't, I'm not going to say that everything is unpremeditated, but you have to want to put on a show, and when you're performing like that, things come naturally, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and not only that, but the music that we play, Michael, it's impossible.
You can't sit down. You can't sit down. You can't sit down, man.
It's impossible to not reflect physically what the grind and the pulse of the music is. Your body's got to do that. Yes. I mean, I don't dance per se, but when I'm on stage, I'm a dancing fool because the music takes over the entire atmosphere, and it still does for you all these years, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And I tell you the truth, I mean, look what we're going through right now. I miss it terribly. Man, I want to be out there playing right now, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So overall, in 2020, we had our music amputated temporarily. Of course, you're still making music. By the way, Lutz, I haven't played some of my licks for you. I'm going to go ahead and play some of them right here. I think you can hear them. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a lick that you want to play bass on, Lutz. It's called Detroit Muscle. It goes. I've got grinders right now that we gotta create killer songs out of, man.
Oh yeah.
So listen, all you other guys that are in on this thing, man, you got to realize something. He's playing he's playing proverbially a toy guitar. That's a 3/4 scale. So it's shorter this way, and his paws are bigger than mine, and I got gorilla paws. I don't know how the hell he does it, man. You people don't understand that. That's
incredible.
Scale neck. How can he get those huge fingers around that, man? You know?
And then I've got
awesome.
this one that goes, this Patrick. Just all kinds of crankers, Lutz. I can't wait to get in the damn studio with you.
Hey, you know what? So we're going to do it again, right? As soon as we
Hell
get
yes.
clear out. Hey,
Hell
I gotta say a big fat shout out to that rock and rhythm section. I said a coney and a slice, right? You know, the coney being Jason Hartless and the slice being Greg Smith, man.
Yep.
Boy, where did you find those guys? Man?
They found me. We deserve each other. And by the way, Michael, not only did we play killer music today, we had the greatest tour of our life in 2019. We're about to have the greatest tour of our life in 2020. But Jason wanted to become a deer hunter. Greg wanted to become a deer hunter. They opened up the Michigan season yesterday. Greg got a beautiful 6-point, and Jason got a buck of a lifetime, a giant stag. So God help, just think of the music we're going to create now.
Yeah, man, that's going to be awesome. Most people don't know that we've done the last 2 records down near to where you live, right?
Right, in Waco.
Packed up a bunch of equipment in the studio here and trucked it down with a couple of my good friends that had their own studios and did it all remote. And man, I got to tell you something. You know, in this day and age, if you don't know about recording, in this day and age, man, when you have people that, spend months in the recording studio and stuff, we recorded all the band tracks for, the music made me do it. Yeah, we recorded all the band tracks. These guys are playing live all at once, not overdubbing or anything, man. All at once, we recorded all 10 band tracks in one day. And then we had spent
That's amazing.
We did like the acoustic Fred Bear and
Yeah, that's because we're so tuned in. Well, Mike, I got to tell you, it's been just an absolute riot. I'm a happy American dream son of a bitch, life, liberty, and the pursuit of extreme happiness. And you've been a big part of that. And you've enriched people's lives with your music, whether it's the Brownsville Station, what we've done, collaborated, and all the different stuff you've done. I call you a blood brother, a soul brother, a funk brother. And I just hope that we get through this stupid Chinese attack and we get back out there making more music together. And I love you, buddy. I love everything you've brought to my music and enhanced my musical visions and my musical dreams. And I'm just proud to call you a musical family member. You are that for sure.
Thank you, man. I love you too, man. And make sure you say hey to your family for me, all right?
You bet. You back at you, Michael. God bless you, buddy. Have a great Thanksgiving. Celebrate Thanksgiving every day. Independence Day every day. Go ahead and celebrate Veterans Day every day, and just celebrate Shit Kicker Day every day.
That's right. So, Ted, our guest was brought to us by the friends at Patriot Mobile. And you know what? We haven't talked about Patriot Mobile much this episode, but I wanted to just bring this up real quick. So what makes Patriot Mobile different is their drive to support conservative and Christian values. Now, while other companies like Verizon support liberal causes that include social justice organizations and Planned Parenthood, Patriot Mobile prides itself on kneeling before God and standing for the anthem. Patriot Mobile shares the values of Christians and many conservatives. They love the First, Second Amendment, sanctity of life, needs of veterans and first responders. The other big difference is they're 100% U.S.-based customer teams, so they don't outsource it overseas. And now they have the broadest coverage of any provider on dependable nationwide 4G LTE networks. And of course, all of their plans include unlimited talk and text data. Listen, go to patriotmobile.com/TED. use the promo code STAN. Now, Ted, I've been telling everybody in the chat room that I've got a real treat for him.
What's that?
And I want to cue something up. And we were talking about
some of the old David Letterman stuff. Yeah.
Herbert, cue up the Letterman thing. Play the beginning of the interview with Ted and David Letterman. This is from, I don't even know what.
78, 77 or 78, I think.
I don't know. Play this,
Herbert.
Play.
Guy.
He was a great guy. I mean, look, he pioneered, the whole late night circuit. Herbert, go ahead and play a little bit of the interview, and then I'm going to jump to when Ted just rips it up with Paul Schaefer in the band. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you for being here, and you sell literally millions of albums. What would be the correct figure?
Oh, 14, 15 million.
14 or
Small
15
figure,
million.
actually, nowadays, I think.
But you do this, correct me if this is not true, without the benefit of a lot of commercial airplay, right?
Yeah, on occasion. I've had a few clicks going back in 77, 78 with some Cat Scratch Fever and some other love songs, but other than that, I don't get a whole lot of radio play. There seems to be a trend in programming radio that gets a little gentle at times.
And so you feel that people would... What is the reason that you're not included in that?
There's a lot of wimps out there. It's basically inconsequential because I just rock it out. Rock and roll is pretty much...
Say to the younger Ted Nugent there on the David Letterman set, because you certainly didn't have a problem with I don't know, maybe you were challenged on the humility front a bit. I don't know.
I was young, and David was a cocky interviewer, and I was just naturally cocky anyhow. So I'm just following my instincts, and I thought I did great for a young 20-something guy there.
That's right. And now, was there anything that you learned since then that you would tell the younger Ted Nugent? Because one thing that I want to say is, you played into the bad boy. You played into you were an enigma, right? Because you lived a clean lifestyle your entire life. But any objective source who watches you sitting back and acting like that, they're going to draw a different conclusion.
Well, no, not really. I think the atmosphere in that setting was extremely relaxed. I'd been doing a bunch of interviews those couple years because of the album sales, and I wasn't putting on any front or anything. I was following the conversation, and I'm naturally a funny, cocky guy anyhow. I like to have fun with the conversation. So, when I said Cat Scratch Fever and other love songs, I meant it. I think they are love songs.
They are love songs. They're love ballads. So then, look, they put a guitar in your hand, and Herbert, go full screen on this and turn it up. This is a real treat for everybody. Listen how Ted sitting his relaxed his
way. It was
tears it up.
Terrible strings and a terrible amplifier, but I still made it kick.
You've got the hottest band.
Absolutely. Goes without saying.
Those were some amazing days, man. Those were the amazing days. I used to record that show and watch it the next morning. That was just an amazing performance.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But that was that basic Chuck Berry original style of playing. And that guitar was just, I mean, it's a great Les Paul, but it had really heavy strings. And it was playing through an amplifier with no overdrive and no distortion at all. So it was real, almost like hee-haw, picky. But so I went into those different phrases and different maneuvers because I improvise, adapt, and overcome. And if it was going to sound like that, I can play like that.
Now, can you remember that like it was yesterday? Because I look back on that and I'm like, God, that was a long time ago. And that was a very different world then.
You know, I get people from all around the world keep sending me my old Miami Vice performance. I was on Letterman, I think 7 or 8 times. Had some great times with David and certainly Paul and the band. And I really asked to be on the show to play with Paul and the band. Plus, I really enjoyed Letterman's heartland Midwest spirit and his friendly cockiness. Eventually, poor David went into mean-spirited cockiness, and he kind of lost that Midwestern easygoing thing that he had to begin with. And I think almost everybody agrees with the terrible heartbreak that old David Letterman went to the dark side about 1995, 1996.
Did you now when you were playing with Paul Schaefer in the world's most dangerous band? My favorite member actually was David Sanborn, the saxophone player.
Great sax player, but that was Steve Jordan, who eventually was hired by Keith Richards. Steve Jordan is one of the most revered drummers in the world. Goes right up there with Anton Fig, who's the most recent Letterman drummer, and. I got to jam at Les Paul's club with Anton Fig, and I've played with him before, and he's just a monster. But that New York City musical pool of musicians are as fine of virtuosos on their given instruments. You mentioned Sanborn, a perfect example on the saxophone. And to play with people of that capability and virtuosity, it was very, very inspiring, I got to tell you.
Yeah, really. It really is. So, Ted, I know that we're at the top of the hour here, and I know we need to wrap things up. But listen, this has been an amazing show, and I'm really excited because Monday I'm going to start bringing on my friends. You said have a good time. You want to have a good time hanging out with me and my friends. I'm going to show you what my friends are all about.
I'm going to look for. I think Monday we might have Johnny Benagic. I'm not sure. I'll check.
Maybe.
But the original Johnny Benagic of Mitch Ryder's band, talking about. In fact, Steve Jordan and Anton Fig and every drummer in the world will mention that Johnny Benagic invented a lot of this high-velocity throttling that he did when he was only 15 and 16 years old. So if the planets align, Brenkus, we will have Johnny Benagic on Monday, and I look forward to meeting some of your friends. But thank you again, John, for helping create this campfire. I think it's special. I think we project and share such a positive intensity and energy and fun spirit. And I thank you for being my partner on this, man.
I can't tell you how much fun I'm having. I want everybody to play a game that I've started to play, 6 Degrees of Ted Nugent. If you think of any musical act and you say, okay, who played in that band, who played whatever, Ted Nugent, I think, is connected to pretty much everybody.
I think pretty much everybody, yes. And I'm lucky that way. You know, I still play my guitar every day. We're having a wonderful deer season in Michigan, but everybody keep your spirit high. Compartmentalize your energies so that you take on the danger and the ugliness out there, but be sure that you shower your family and friends and your coworkers, people at church and school. Be sure that you're a source of positive energy. There's a lot to piss and moan about, and there will be plenty of pissing and moaning, and pissing and moaning can be good as long as it's focused and aimed at the egregious violations and corruption and criminality that we see running around there. But let everybody from the Ted Nugent Campfire be a source of upbeat, buoyant, positive time and positive spirit and positive energy, because everybody needs to escape the chaos that we're surrounded with right now. And there's some ugly times a-coming, my friends, but I think it's really important that we communicate with our elected employees and you let them know that we believe in God, family, country, that we believe in law and order, that only a criminal would want to defund the police, and only a traitor would want to give money from hardworking Americans to people who are here illegally. Only a traitor would think that America doesn't need borders, because those that think America doesn't need borders, they think their homes need borders. They think their lives need borders. So let's be real pragmatic. Let's be honest. And let's keep it upbeat while we fight the ugliness out there, but we maximize the positive. And I will see you here, John, on Thursday, I believe, with Johnny Bonangic. And I also want to announce that this Thursday will be the last Thursday, I believe, of the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire. We're going to go to every Monday night once I get back to Texas, and we're going to do a Spirit Campfire once a week if things go according to plans. Who knows what the plans might be. But I look forward to them. We're going to have some wonderful guests. We're going to keep the fires roaring. We're going to keep the energy positive and the spirit positive. And I thank everybody for the communication on my Facebook. Again, I thank Patriot Mobile. These are the people that fuel the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire. All this positive energy has to be supported, and Patriot Mobile supports what we believe in. So thank you very much.
All right, everybody, be the change in the world that you want to see.
Yes.
God bless.
Be the leader in a positive force.